Have you ever been broke? And I'm not talking about I only got $100 in my bank account. I'm talking about negative bank accounts, every last one of them. Prepaid debit card broke. That's where I was when I had my encounter with Dogman. And I'm not going to sit here and say to you that I was right or that I was wrong for what I was doing when I had this encounter, but I was just doing what I needed to do to survive. So let me rewind and take you all the way back to the beginning. It's January 3rd, right after New Year's. I wake up in the middle of the night because I hear a tow truck outside. Run out the front door and they are repossessing my car. Listen, I needed my car to work because I was doing DoorDash and Grubhub, and that was the only income that I had coming in. I've been broke for a long time, and I knew for a fact that if you weren't 90 days late or more on your car note, that they would not repossess your car. But I guess somewhere along the lines, they changed the rules because I'm 62 days late, and I've been counting these days, and they come to pick up my vehicle. So now I find myself staying in my one-bedroom studio apartment. Rent is coming due, and I have absolutely no way to make any money. I got exactly 5 days before my cell phone gets turned off. I call one of my friends. And every one of you have a friend like this. The people that skate in the gray areas. Every now and then they break the law, but they have a way of getting their hands on money. So I called him like, listen, bro, I'm in a bad situation. My car just got repossessed. My cell phone about to get turned off. I need to come up on some money. So he tells me about this job that he's going to do. It's a construction site, and he's going to go steal the copper. And I'm like, listen, count me in. I need to make some money. Let's do it. 2 nights later, he picks me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we head on over to this housing development complex. They're building brand new houses. We park and start walking through the woods, headed towards these houses. And when we come out of the woods, these are some beautiful, magnificent looking homes. Now, he had already scoped out the houses, so now we get to work. In the very first house that we go into, they just so happen to be storing the copper piping inside of it. So now the two of us are transporting this copper through the woods back to his vehicle, coming back, getting more, going through the woods and back to his vehicle. I'm on my 3rd trip through the woods when I hear what sounds like something up in a tree. I don't mean like a flock of birds waking up in the tree early in the morning. The tree limbs are cracking like something heavy is up in the tree. However, in that moment, I was so paranoid, I said to myself, it does not matter what's up in that tree. If we get caught with this copper, we're going to jail for a very long time. So I ignore it, head back to the vehicle, put the copper in, and start working my way back. Now, it's on my way back where I hear it again, decide to pause, turn on my flashlight, and shine it up into the tree. And I'm not sure, maybe you guys can explain it to me. Maybe Dogman sleeps in trees. I don't know what the hell was going on, but this thing was nestled up in the tree branches and is looking down at me. Pissed off, what are you doing? Its body wasn't pre-positioned like it was about to pounce on me. It reminded me like how a giant house cat lays up in the tree. It was just laid up there in a tree, and it's looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing? I take off running back to the car, hop in, and slam the door. Meanwhile, my buddy's on his way back with the rest of the copper, and when he gets to the car, he's like, what are you doing inside? There's more to get. Let's get it all. And I'm like, nah, bruh, we got enough. We needs to go. That's when the two of us have this argument right there. He's trying to convince me to get out of the car. Me trying to explain to him that we need to leave because I saw something weird in the woods. The two of us are going back and forth, and we see headlights coming up the road. And have you ever had a gut instinct? I knew without a doubt that was the police. You couldn't have convinced me of anything otherwise. So I tell him, I said, listen, that's the police coming. We need to go. We need to hurry up and ride out. He hops in the car, and instead of driving off, this dude turns and drives into the woods with the lights off. And for the next 10 minutes, we sit there in the darkness trying to hide from what I believe was the police, where I just saw this freaking thing. The most terrifying 10 minutes of my life. Then he backs out, and we head home. Now, I don't know how much you know about copper, but I made enough money that night to get my car back out of repossession. But I promised myself, no matter how rough times get, man, I'm not doing anything like that again. What are the chances? The one time I decide to do something wrong, there's a Dogman there. I took it as a sign. This is something I don't need to be doing. Have you ever had a friend who lies for no good reason? The kind of person who just makes stuff up and tries to pass it off as truth? Then when they realize the lies don't make sense, they double down again and lie even more? I'm talking about the pathological, psychopathic liar. That's how Mike was. He lied his ass off at every given opportunity. I remember one time we were 22 years old. We're down at the beach in Florida, and he sees this Mercedes-Benz, starts this conversation with this chick, and during the conversation, he tells her that the Mercedes-Benz is his. Now stop and listen. Any logical person would think to themselves, I shouldn't say that, because anything could go wrong. The girl could need a ride home. The owner of the car could walk up, hop in, and drive off. Long story short, he spends 15 minutes lying to this girl and trying to get me to vouch for his lies by saying, ask Chris. Every time she seemed to be not buying his, he would try and bring me into it. Then, as all of this is going on, the real owner of the car walks up, unlocks it, and drives off, leaving both of us standing there looking like total fools. But that is how Michael behaved. So when he called me and said that he had a dogman on his property, I hung up the phone. I was like, I'm not about to sit here and listen to him lie to me about a werewolf, just so he could feel important. The next day, he calls me again and says, hey man, I know you think I'm lying, but I'm not. Last night, this thing came over to the house, killed my dog, and threw her on top of the roof. I'm sitting there listening to him, thinking to myself, yo, I need to break up with this dude. You know what I mean? Like, I need to stop being friends with him, completely break everything off, get rid of his. That's when he says, listen, I know you don't believe me, and I'm sorry for lying so much, but just come over to our house and see. I know you'll believe me if you could see what's going on. Just come over. But frankly, there was no way I was getting out of my bed at 9:45 p.m. and going to this dude's house. So I told him, listen, I'll come over tomorrow. The next morning, I get up, have breakfast, give him a call, and he doesn't answer the phone. I clean up around the house, mess around for a few hours, and call him back, but no answer. Then I completely forget about him until about 12:30 when I'm on my way back from getting a few things from the store. That's when I make the decision to pass by his house. When I pull up to his house, his car looks like someone dropped a boulder on top of it. The side of his house looks like something slammed into the brick wall. They're scattered all over the place. So now, I'll admit to you, I'm a little bit worried, but in my mind, this ain't got nothing to do with no damn dog man. I'm thinking, okay, you done pissed somebody off, lied to them, and they came over here and they tried to do something to you. So now I'm knocking on the front door. No sound. I knock on the door again. That's when I hear screaming and banging coming from inside of the house. So I take a step back, I'm looking around, and the sound is coming from up by the roof. You know how people have those little windows in their attic? Looking up there he is, skin pale white, look like he got baby powder all over his face. He's screaming, is it gone? Is it gone? And I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? Is what gone? He says, the wolf, is it gone? Is it gone? I'm like, bro, ain't no wolf down here, man. What are you talking about? 2 minutes later, he comes running out of the front door and absolutely insists that we get in my car and leave his house. Fast forward, 15 minutes later, we're sitting on the couch at my house and he's a babbling mess. There are no coherent phrases coming out of this man's mouth. And in order to calm him down, I roll him a joint. He takes a hit, then he passes out, falls asleep on my sofa for 5 freaking hours. And let me pause right here and interject something to you at this point in the story. During the entire time that he is passed out on my sofa, smelling like urine, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This is your fault. You should not be with this dude in the first place. You know he's a lying piece of shit, and now you're caught up in whatever the hell he has going on. Don't blame him, blame yourself. Because if you just cut his off, you would not have these problems. Get this, when he finally wakes up, it's midnight and he starts pacing the floor, explaining to me exactly what happened. And you're not gonna believe this. He says he was at home and got a call from the NARF, the Native American Rights Fund. I had never heard of him. You probably never heard of him. They were asking for donations. This fool starts to tell them that he's part Native American. Lie. Then, over the course of a week, convinces them that he can help make phone calls. Then, after that, if that's not bad enough, this fool proceeds to make phone calls soliciting funds and gives false information and collects the money for himself. All the way up. Just so happens to catch wind of this because one of the lists is a double call list. The person on the phone finds out that the donor is already giving funds, and it becomes this whole big mess. And guess what he does? Instead of telling the truth, giving up the money, he lies. Then it gets to the point where he gets a call from a guy who claims to be a part of the Creek Nation. In Michael's mind, he's talking his way out of things. He's not lying. He's convinced himself that he's not lying to you. He's talking his way out of a situation. He goes on to explain to me that the guy says, listen, stop lying to me. You've stolen from our people and you've lied about our ancestors. You have 3 days to return this money. Now, instead of just giving the money up, nope, Michael lies again. And then according to him, this guy starts to describe the inside of his house in great detail, tells him about the clothes stacked up on top of the dryer and the color of the dishes in the sink. Then tells him, you have 3 days to return our money. Now, of course, this jerk writes it off, says screw them. 3 days pass, and as soon as the sun goes down, he starts to hear what he described as drums coming from the woods outside of his house. Now, to be clear with you, we don't have any Native American tribes in this area that I'm aware of. But Mike tells me that the noise was so loud that it seems to be right outside of his house. But when he goes outside to check, it seems like it's far away. Every time he goes back inside, it sounds like it's right outside of his back door. Eventually, those drums stop and he goes to sleep only to be awakened by the sound of what he describes as something jumping on his roof, like a freaking trampoline. That's when he says he heard the sound of metal and glass, and looking out of the window, it's a freaking werewolf on top of his car, stomping on it and crushing his vehicle. Now pause right here for a second and let me say this. In my mind, this was an elaborate ruse, a hoax. I'm thinking, okay, he needs money and this is his way of getting from me. He's just come up with another lie. I'm not believing that he has to say. But that's when I hear growling outside of my house. And it sounds like a monster from a freaking movie growling over a loudspeaker. And I'm like, what the? He starts to panic. I'm in confusion. And then he starts to ramble about how it killed his dog, threw it on the roof, crushed his car, slammed into the house. And he tells the story all over again. And while all of that is going on at his house, he's running around in a complete panic. He says a man dressed in Native American clothing appears in his house, walks through the wall like in the Terminator movies, and stands there looking at him. He goes to the bedroom and closes the door, and the man walks right through the door. Now, I need you to understand something. As all of this is being said to me, this growling is still going on outside of my house. And then we hear what sounds like someone calling his name from outside. Michael. At this point in time, I'm like, listen, bro, you cannot stay here. And this look comes over his face. This look of terror, sheer and complete terror. He looks at me and says, Chris, you can't be serious. You hear what's going outside. And I tell him, listen, you lied as you always lie. This time you gotten yourself into some that no one can help you with. And for the next 10 minutes, this man begs me to let him spend the night at my house. I'm talking about tears in his eyes, snot running down his nose. So I relent and let him spend the night. Now picture this. The two of us stay awake in my living room for the rest of the night and into the early morning. About 4 a.m., he starts to panic, staring at the corner of the room, claiming that there was an Indian man in my house. Now, I didn't see an Indian man standing in the corner of my house, but it scared him so much that he fainted, passed out cold. Now, when that sun rose, and I know this is going to sound cold-hearted and mean, but when that sun rose, I kicked his ass out of my house, and that was the end of our friendship. I don't know how he made it home, don't care. He called me a few times after that, but I removed this man completely from my life. I will not be speaking to Michael ever again. Listen, I don't know if what I'm about to share with you classifies as a Dogman encounter or not, but I can damn sure tell you what I saw. 6 months ago, I took a job working as a night security guard. And typically my shift would start about 10:30 p.m. Now let me paint a picture for you. This is an office park. It's not like an industrial site, anything like that. It's an office park where people come in, they work all times of night and go home. Now behind the office park itself is nothing but woods. And I'm talking about miles and miles worth of woods. This particular night, I come to work, I'm making my rounds. First of all, I walk around inside the building, and then I walk around the exterior of the entire complex. Then I get some coffee, sit down, relax for a little while. About 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I make a second interior round and exterior round. And I want to say this to you. This is a brand new building, never heard or saw anything spooky on the inside. Sure, does it seem spooky because it's a gigantic vacant building in the middle of the night? Yes, every now and then you'll stumble upon somebody who's in the building at 1 o'clock in the morning doing work. That can be a little bit startling, but outside of that, absolutely nothing freaky goes on at this place. Now, I'm making my second exterior round. I start out front, head all the way down to the right-hand side, make a left. Now I'm coming up on the back side of the building, and I hear what sounds like something banging into the dumpster. I'll try my best to explain it to you. If you take your hand and you press onto your car door to the point to where you push the metal in and then let it go, how it pops out and makes that boom sound, that's what it sounds like. Boom, boom. As I turn that corner, headed to the back side of the building, is this long row of dumpsters. It's 9 of them back there. And to be honest with you, I am what you can fully call a rent-a-cop. I don't have a weapon whatsoever. All I have is this flashlight. And as I'm walking up on the dumpsters, I peek around, shining the light. And the first thing I see on the ground is a deer, and it's bleeding, but it's still alive. I'm watching its eyes dart back and forth, and it looks up at the light with this look on its face like, help me. And then I shine that light a little bit further up, and that's when I see it. Exactly what everybody describes as Dogman, except for this thing looked a hell of a lot like a hyena in the face. It's crouched down on its hind 2 legs, bent over like a human being would, blood all over its snout, and it is eating this poor deer. Now listen, I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself. When I first saw this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they must be filming some kind of Hollywood movie out here, and they didn't tell me anything about it because that's how realistic it looked. It looked like a Hollywood special effect. Somebody's playing a joke. This has got to be some kind of freaking game. But then it dawns on me that ain't no damn Hollywood movie production out here. And then there's no trailers, there's no lights, there's no people. It's just me, that deer, and that thing. And it's down there chewing on the deer like it doesn't give a damn that I'm standing there. But when it looks up and makes eye contact with me, I realize that nope, this is real. And that thing right there might just eat me. Now get this, that thing turns slightly, leaps up into the air with the deer jumping over the fence, lands on the ground, and takes off running. Talk about a terrible night at work. The only thing I could do was turn around, go back inside of that building, and sit at my desk. And that's when I started to research what everybody called Dogman. And for the longest time, every description of Dogman did not match what I saw. Until one day, I heard Dog Waters talking about a Dogman that looked like a hyena in the face. Get this, when it's finally time for me to get off work, people are coming into the building. I go outside, circle back around, and go look at that dumpster. I just wanted to see it for myself. And sure enough, there's a pile of blood there, and you can see where the freaking deer ran through the metal bars of the fence. That's how afraid it was. It ran into the bars and broke through them. Naturally, the question is, do I still work at the same place? Absolutely I do, but I got switched over to the day shift.